1, 2, mic check. Talking for a bit, see if it comes through on delay. 1, 2, yes, mic check. 1, 2. So if you go stand, you'll hear the aircon stops, so does that. But what I can give you is I can give you an isolator if that helps in your line. So it's not frozen. So it might be the internet here. So it is definitely streaming. Yeah. Just try that. One, two, yes. You still good? Confirm for me. 1, 2, yes. Are you good? Yes, mic check, 1, 2. Good.
Brand new song. So follow the song, the direction of the birds, the direction of love, breathe, breathe in the air, cherish this moment, cherish this breath, oh, tomorrow's a new day for everyone, oh, a brand new moon, brand new song. When you feel love coming down on you like a heavy weight, when you feel this crazy society heading to the strand, take a stroll to the nearest water's edge and remember your place. Many moons have risen and fallen long before you came. So which way's the wind blowing? What does your heart say? So follow the sun. Which way the wind blows, but this day is done.
There's a place I go to where no one knows me. It's not lonely, it's a necessary thing. It's a place I made of, find out what I'm made of. The nights I stayed up, counting stars and fighting sleep. Let it wash over me, ready to lose my feet. Take me off to the place where one reveals life's mystery. Steady on down the line, lose every sense of time. Take it all in and wake up that small part of me. Day to day I'm blind to see and find how far to go. Everybody got their reason, everybody got their way, but we're just catching and releasing what builds up throughout the day. It gets into your body and it flows right through your blood, but we can tell each other secrets and remember how to love. There's a place I'm going. knows me. If I breathe real slowly, let it out and let it in. It can be terrifying to be slowly dying, oh so clarifying. The end where we begin, so let it wash over me. I'm ready to lose my feet. Take me off to the place where one feels life's mystery. Steady on down the line, lose every sense of time. I take it all in and wake up that small part of me. Day to day I'm blind to see and find how far to go. Everybody got their reason, everybody got their way. But we're just catching and releasing what builds up throughout the day. It gets into your body and it flows right through your blood. Or we can tell each other secrets and remember how to love.
Foolishly laying our hearts on the table, stumbling in. Our love is a flame, burning within. Now and then, firelight will catch us, stumbling in. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you know these reckless thoughts of mine are following you. I'm falling for you. Whatever you do, 'cause baby you showed me so many things that I never knew. Whatever it takes, baby, I'll do it for you. Our love is alive, and so we begin. Foolishly laying our hearts on the table, stumbling in. Our love is a flame, burning within. Now and then, firelight will catch us, stumbling in. You were so young, you were so young. Oh, and I was so free, I was so free. I may have been young, but baby, that's not what I wanted to be. Oh, it's not what I wanted. Well, you were the one, you were the one. Oh, why was it me? Why was it me? 'Cause baby, you showed me so many things that I've never seen. Whatever you need, baby, you've got it from me. Our love is alive, and so we begin. Foolishly laying our hearts on the table, stumbling in.
The sunshine fills my hair, and dreams hang in the air. Goes in the sky, and in my blue eyes, you know it feels unfair. There's magic everywhere. Look at me standing here on my own again. I'm straight in the sunshine. No need to hide and hide. It's a wonderful, wonderful life. No need to laugh and cry. It's a wonderful, wonderful life. The sun's in your eyes, the heat is in your hair. They seem to hate you because you're there. And I need a friend, oh, I need a friend to make me happy. And I stand here on my own. Look at me standing here on my own again. I'm straight in the sunshine. No need to run and hide. It's a wonderful, wonderful life. No need to laugh and cry. It's a wonderful, wonderful life. It's a wonderful, wonderful life.
for love, no time for tears. Wasted word is all that is, and it don't make no flowers grow. Oh, good things might come to those who wait. Now for those who wait too late, we gotta go for all we know. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building them castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Oh, just the two of us. Building big castles way high. Just the two of us. You and I.
I want you to stay till I'm in the grave, till I rot away, dead and buried, till I'm in the casket you carry. If you go, I'm going to, 'cause it was always you. Alright, and if I'm turning blue, please don't save me. Nothing left to lose without my baby. Birds of a feather, we should stick together. I know I said I never think I wasn't better alone. Can't change the weather, might not be forever, but if it's forever, it's even better. And I don't know what I'm crying for. I don't think I could love you more. It might not be long, but baby, I love you till the day that I die. Till the day that I die. Till the light leaves my eyes. Till the day that I die. I want you to see how you look to me. You wouldn't believe if I told you. You would keep the compliments I throw you, but you're so full of shit. Tell me it's a bit. Say you don't see it, you're much polluted. Say you wanna quit, don't be stupid. And I don't know what I'm crying for. I don't think I could love you more. It might not be long, but baby, I don't wanna say goodbye till the day that I die. Till the light leaves my eyes. Till the day that I die. I knew you in another life. You had the same look in your eyes. I love you, don't act so surprised. Birds of a feather, we should stick together. I know I said I never think I wasn't better alone. Can't change the weather, might not be forever, but if it's forever, it's even better.
They say the holy water's watered down, and this town's lost its faith. Our colors will fade eventually. So if our time is running out, day after day, we'll make them mundane, our masterpiece. Oh my, my, oh my, my love. I take one look at you, you're taking me out of the ordinary. I want you laying me down to read dead and buried on the edge of her knife, staying drunk on her vine. The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found something so out of the ordinary. You got me kissing the ground of her sanctuary. Shatter me with her touch, a Lord, return me to dust. The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found hopeless hallelujah on this side of heaven's gate. Oh my life, how do ya breathe and take my breath away? At your altar I will pray, you're the sculptor, I'm the clay. Oh my, you're taking me out of the ordinary. I want you laying me down till we're dead and buried on the edge of her knife, staying drunk on her vine. The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found something so out of the ordinary. You got me kissing the ground of her sanctuary. Shatter me with her touch, oh Lord, return me to dust. The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found something so heavenly, higher than ecstasy. Whenever you're next to me, oh my, world wasn't black and white until I saw your light. I thought you had to die to find something so out of the ordinary. I want you laying me down to read dead and buried on the edge of her knife, staying drunk on her vine. The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found something so out of the ordinary. You got me kissing the ground of her sanctuary. Shatter me with her touch, oh Lord, return me to dust. The angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found.
The world was on fire and no one could save me but you. Strange what desire will make foolish people do. So why would you leave me waiting outside the station when it was like -4 degrees? And I get what you're saying. I just really don't wanna hear it right now. Can you shut up for like once in your life? Listen to me. I took your nice words of advice about how you think I'm gonna die lucky if I turn 33. Okay, so yeah, I smoke like a chimney. I'm not skinny and I pull a Britney every other week. But cut me some slack. Who do you want me to be? 'Cause I'm too messy, and then I'm too goddamn clean. You told me get a job and you asked where the hell I've been. And I'm too perfect till I open my big mouth. I want to be me, is that not allowed? And I'm too clever, and then I'm too goddamn dumb. You hate it when I cry unless it's that time of the month. And I'm too perfect to show you that I'm not 1,000 people I could be for you, and you hate the whole damn lot. You hate the whole damn lot. You hate the whole damn lot. You hate it. It's taking you ages. You still don't get the hint. I'm not asking for pages. One text or two would be nice, and please don't pull those faces. When I've been out working my ass off all day, it's just one bottle of wine or two. But hey, you can't even talk. You smoke weed just to help you sleep. Then why you out getting stoned at 4 o'clock? Then you come home to me and don't say hello. 'Cause I got high again and forgot to fold my clothes. 'Cause I'm too messy, and then I'm too goddamn clean. You told me get a job and you asked where the hell I've been. And I'm too perfect till I open my big mouth. I want to be me, is that not allowed? And I'm too clever, and then I'm too goddamn dumb. You hate it when I cry unless it's that time of the month. And I'm too perfect
summertime sadness. I just wanted you to know that baby, you're the best. I'm feeling electric tonight, cruising down the coast, going about 99. Get my bed, baby, by my heavenly side. I know if I go, I got up in night. Oh my God, I feel it in the air. Tell if I was above, a sizzle like a snare, honey. I'm fine. I feel it everywhere. Nothing scares me anymore. No, I don't know myself anymore. Feels like the walls are all closing in, and the devil's knocking at my door. Oh, out of my mind. How many times did I tell you I'm no good at being alone? Yeah, it's taking a toll on me. Trying my best to keep from tearing the skin from my bones. Don't you know I lose control when you're not next to me? I'm falling apart right in front of you. Can't you see? I lose control when you're not next to me. Yeah, you're breaking my heart, baby. You make a mess of me. Problematic. The problem is I want your body like a fiend, like a bad habit. Bad habits hard to break when I'm with you. Yeah, I know I can do it on my own, but I want that real full moon, black magic, and it takes two. Problematic. The problem is when I'm with you, I'm an addict, and I need some relief. My skin in your teeth, can't see the forest through the trees. Got me down on my knees, darling, please. I lose control when you're not next to me. I'm falling apart right in front of you. Can't you see? I lose control when you're not next to me. Yeah, you're breaking my heart, baby. You make a mess of me. Living in a movie, we can make the call. Oh, I can read your lips, and every time I fall, I wanna hold you closer and look into your eyes. Remind me of the kiss we shared that summer night. Living in a movie, we can make the call. Oh, I can read your lips, and every time I fall, I wanna hold you closer and look into your eyes. Remind me of the kiss we shared that summer night.
oceans apart. No, I will never leave. And even when it's dark, I'll give you all you need. Living in a movie, we can make a call. Oh, I can read your lips. And every time I fall, I wanna hold you closer and look into your eyes. Remind me of the kiss we shared that summer night. Watching all the stars, they're falling in the deep. I'll keep you in my arms until we fall asleep. Can never get enough, it's a mystery to me. And we'll be sunset lovers, with you I wanna be. Living in a movie, we can make a call. Oh, I can read your lips, and every time I fall, I wanna hold you closer and look into your eyes. Remind me of the kiss we shared that summer night. Living in a movie, we can make a call. Oh, I can read your lips, and every time I fall, I wanna hold you closer and look into your eyes. Remind me of the kiss we shared that summer night. All night, all night. I'm afraid of the dark, especially when I'm in the park and there's no one else around. Oh, I get the shivers. I don't wanna see a ghost. It's a sight that I fear most. I'd rather have a piece of toast and watch the evening news. Night, all night, all night, all night, night, all night, all night, all night.
One.
I'm a superstitious girl. I'm the worst in the world. Never walk under ladders to keep a rabbit's tail. I'll take you up on a dare. Anytime, anywhere.
Are we ready?
Place, I'll be there. Bungee
Okay.
jumping, I don't care.
Erica, please keep the noise
All
down.
night, all night, all night.
I'm going to kick off now. I know there's still a few people coming through, but I'd just like to welcome everybody to the 9th SAIFM Annual Regulatory Summit. We are pleased to have many returning faces here, some new faces, and quite a few people joining us online. For those who don't know me, my name is Adam Reeves, and I have the privilege to be serving as the chair of the South African Institute of Financial Markets. I will also be your MC throughout the day, so bear with me and let's have some fun. We normally associate fun with regulation, but most of us are here willingly, right? Okay, good. First point of order, the toilets, and I feel like air stewardess, they're down there to the right, and I think down there as well. Exit locations of the room, lunch will be served on the ground floor. So if I can also ask you to put your devices and your mobiles on silent, please. Those who haven't, and I will remind you later, sign in for your CPD and sign out for your CPD. And then also please make sure that you get a validated parking ticket. And the Wi-Fi code and social media hashtag is hashtag SAIFMRS2025. So let's get cracking. First, thanks to Straight for our sponsor. There are opportunities for sponsorship next year, so come and see me at the coffee break, and we'll see what we can do. And I encourage people, please, to speak to and engage with the SAIFM staff that we have here throughout the day. Melissa, can't see Melissa, she's having a nervous breakdown over there. She's the one who did the whole event. Haley does the professional membership, Sasan the exams, and Christiane, the CEO. So last year's summit, we had some very robust engagement and discussions surrounding the interconnectedness of the regulatory environment in which we operate, And one of the major key takeaways was the reality of the volume of regulatory updates and changes that we're now facing, which brings us to this year's theme of shaping market integrity through regulatory innovation. So we're going to have a jam-packed day today with feedback from our regulators, advice and insight from regulatory experts, and discussions with our peers as how best to navigate this wave of regulatory updates that's heading our way. And we do believe that this program today will add great value for you, and we encourage your participation. That's the whole point of us being here, is to be able to participate together. So question time, please feel free, don't be shy, raise your hand. And as I always tell my children, there's no such thing as stupid questions, only stupid people. So hopefully a meaningful chat. We can build some, it always works, every single. So yeah, in order for us to have a properly functioning financial markets, this is all the transparency and integration that we want. So I would like to extend our utmost appreciation to our regulators, Commissioner Kamlala from the FSCA, Mr. Gianardo from SARB, and Mr. Milano of the FIC for taking the time to come and share feedback with us. It's not often that we have the opportunity to engage with our regulators in such an open and frank way. And we recognize that we are very fortunate to have such regulators who are willing to speak, consult, and listen to us. And we're also very extremely grateful to be, let's honest, very other high-profile senior professionals who will be sharing their experience and expertise with us today. As I said, thank you to Straight, who have partnered with us as our lead sponsor for this event. We really do appreciate your participation. Delighted that you could share our ethos of educating and benefiting the market in a manner so meaningful and a standard that is of the highest caliber. So a couple of key points and highlights from the SAI. This won't go on for long. It's cool. Of SAIM since our last summit. In terms of exams, we've had 1,450 exams written, and we encourage universities to include the RPEs, registered persons exams, as part of their qualifications. So the students, when leave university, have already got the examinations to enter the markets and don't have to wait. In order to help the universities achieve this, we provide quite a substantial discount on our exam fees. In the past year, around 10% of all those who wrote their exams with SAIFM were university students, and we hope to increase this over time. We added a crypto assets module to the RPE suite and launched the much anticipated new revamped Straight exams. We conducted 25 workshops and masterclasses over the period as well, which was over 170 delegates attending. Also did collaborative lifelong learning programs with Facet on blockchain technology through Ingrid. And we are very close to reaching our target of 2,000 delegates for that program. And we are continuously adding exciting, relevant topics for workshops and masterclasses. We also customize in-house ones as well. So if you're looking for anybody to actually do that, please reach out to us as well. Our membership base is growing very steadily, and it's encouraging to see the numbers grow as those professionals operating in the financial markets see the value in membership and the value committing to the requirements of the membership. Those who have the FIFM and MIFM designation after their names are instantly recognized as professionals who have complied with and continue to comply with our 5 pillars of fit and proper, of being good character and integrity, appropriate qualifications, sufficient experience, and process the necessary licensing requirements and continue to upskill themselves with ongoing CPD requirements. We are also pleased to note that our social media presence is increasing daily, which is proving to be a simple yet effective platform to get the message of ethics, integrity, and professionalism within the financial markets to a wider reach as possible. Please refer to the speaker section of today's program for more detailed information on our speakers. They are of such high caliber, it will take a long time to read out all of their CVs, so I will just briefly mention what they are. So that was my brief intro. So let's jump in today's program, starting with Ingrid Goodspeed. Give us a brief but rather sobering overview of our regulatory framework in a section preparing to face the regulatory tsunami. Thanks, Ingrid.
Good morning, everyone. We're talking about preparing for the regulatory tsunami. And I think the major lesson I have is don't forget the past and know your regulator. So let's begin. What I'm going to start with is the international financial regulatory architecture. And very pleasingly, SAIFM have put this on your mouse pad, which you have got in your little bags. And what I just want to point out, why is this framework so important for us? Because South Africa is there on the G20. You've seen a lot of it in the press lately about us being in G20. We on that forum. We are sitting there making decisions for the global economy and the global financial sector. Right, let's just talk about what they do. So there's the G20. It's the forum with G20 countries. The AU is also there. So they are discussing an economic and financial agenda, what you want for the world going forward. Obviously, because it's a forum, it has no hands. Who is going to do the work? And that is what we have in the International Financial Stability Board, the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, Bank for International Settlements. What do? The FSB does a lot of the technical work, and they have an agenda. They set the agenda amongst all the members, including our regulators. That's FSCA, Financial Sector Conduct Authority, and the Prudential Authority. International Monetary Fund and the World, and underlying all of that are a host of standard setting bodies. And there's a standard setting body for every single sector, for every single bit of the financial sector. So from banks to securities, which is our world, our OSCOs, pensions, insurance, consumer protection, and FATF. So various international standard setting bodies that are setting the standards for our global financial system. Now, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank are really quite cool in the work they do. They take all the standards that have been set, they come into your jurisdiction, and they say, how does your jurisdiction match up to the standards that have been set? And then they're very helpful. They will give you money to help you bring your jurisdiction up to standard. So a very helpful institution. Institutions. None of this matters to our local environment until it's all written into our national regulatory framework. So none of it's an obligation on us until it's written into our regulatory framework. But remember one thing, where is South Africa? We're sitting at the G20. We are saying, yes, this is the way forward for the global financial sector. So be prepared. This is the world. Now, what are they wanting to do? Let's have a look at what G20 says. Financial reforms. Do not forget the past, the financial crisis, the prime lending that happened. We didn't understand the assets. We had wonderful wrappers. We didn't understand the assets that were underlying those wrappers. So remember those financial reforms, the payments, a lot of work on payments. G20 has a cross-border framework that they're implementing. Non-bank financial institutions, that's the pension funds, investment funds, getting a lot of focus. Artificial intelligence, cybersecurity and resilience. Anti-money laundering is not off the agenda for G20. And non-bank data, in other words, understanding the environment that's coming up. So that's G20, that is its framework, where it wants to go. And those are in the papers. You can see them on National Treasury's site. Financial stability, where is their focus? The FSB is on financial stability. They're looking at non-bank financial intermediation. That's one of their focus areas, as well as private finance. That's private credit, private equity. They're looking at, it's a bullish market there at the moment. So they're looking at that as well, how it's going to impact financial stability. And then stable coins. Now, stable coins, cryptocurrency, but cryptocurrency with a balance sheet. So the functional equivalent really of a banking account. How is the financial stability? What are the financial stability issues around that? Then cross-border, the G20 cross-border roadmap that is coming in. Right, what are the others doing? Bank for International Settlements. They're the only ones currently who've done papers on quantum, because we can't underestimate what quantum computing is going to do to our financial sector. financial crime in real-time payments, tokenization, once again, the crypto world, climate risk, and AI. Basel. Basel is looking at Basel III. Maybe we'll get to the end game. A lot of pushback on the Basel capital accords in national jurisdictions at the moment, the capital requirements for banks. So we'll see what will happen there. They're looking at banks' interconnectedness with non-bank financial institutions. Also, a lot of work in digitalization, AI, crypto assets, third-party and IT risk. And interestingly, they're also looking at liquidity, its supervision, so we can expect some additional measures around liquidity moving forward. Our payments and market infrastructures, the Committee for Payments and Market Infrastructures, is basically the body, the standard setter for financial market. Sorry, are you hearing me okay there? Financial market infrastructures. So they are continuing there with the risk management work, also looking at cross-border payments and all the innovations. Central bank digital currency, stable coins, and using those innovations in payments, clearing, and settlement. Now, our field, our OSCO, what is in their plan for the future? Strengthening resilience, once more, back to G20's guidance, non-bank financial intermediation, their liquidity around their leverage, as well as liquidity requirements, effectiveness, market effectiveness, protecting investors. And this is where you can see a lot of their thinking coming through in the papers that our Financial Sector Conduct Authority has published, such as finfluencers, influencing people through social media. So a lot of work, the copy trading that we're seeing a lot of as well. And then fintech, crypto, DeFi, decentralized finance, artificial intelligence, tokenization, and the resilience of our financial market infrastructures. All right, then FATF, of course, is still doing work. They're looking at global asset protection, virtual asset service providers, which we know as crypto asset service providers, cross-border systems, the move to ISO 20022 in the payment systems, and looking at risk assessment and risk-based. Now, when we look at what our national, you are going to hear a lot about what South Africa is doing. We look at what other jurisdictions are doing. We have the US. Now, the US is a bit of a difficult beast to tie down at the moment because you've got executive orders coming through, which can be, I'm not sure if they're law or not, but anyway, they're coming through. They're talking about crypto assets, private credit being allowed for pension funds, those kind of executive orders, and the issue of debanking. President Trump had a bit of an issue with having a bank account for him and his family, and the issues there. They've brought in the Genius Act, which puts a regulatory framework around stablecoins, and then the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency is doing a regulatory review of all legislation to make sure it's not burdensome and unnecessary. And that trend is feeding through as well to the EU. The UK is pretty much sticking on track, best practice implementation. Their Financial Conduct Authority and Prudential Regulatory Authority. The EU is talking about simplification, but without deregulation. So taking away complexity, unnecessary requirements. Most of those relate to reporting, over-reporting, and then reducing administrative burden. So that really is the crux of the international financial regulatory framework. Look, it's very summarized, but there it is for you. Now let's look at ours. Our framework, what does that look like? Everybody has a piece in our pie in the financial sector. Our main regulators, the Reserve Bank, Prudential Authority, Payment System Department, Financial Surveillance Department, and SARB as well is the macroprudential regulator. Minister of Finance with our policymaker, National Treasury, Financial Sector Conduct Authority. I better get a move on. You know all these, and many of these are going to speak to you today. But what is our regulator saying? Our policymaker, sorry. National Treasury, as our policymaker for the financial sector, is looking at exiting the grey list. And I think we're all looking at that. It's looking at AI and has committed Financial Sector Conduct Authority and Prudential Authority to do work on this in our financial sector. It's looking at our payment system, national payment system, in line with G20 cross-border. Climate risks are still on the agenda. Financial inclusion on the agenda. Retirement reform is still on the agenda. Coffee. Conduct Financial Institutions Bill. Hopefully we're going to see that come to fruition. We're also looking at capital flows management. In other words, hopefully something around exchange control, which is now called capital flows management. And then in our financial markets, we're looking at a review of the Financial Markets Act. So expect that and our transition from JIBAR to Zeronia, and that we will have speakers on today. What National Treasury has also done, and which is very nice for our regulators, is they have got together and formed this intergovernmental fintech working group. Hugely useful for us as market practitioners because they're working together. So there we have it. And in 2025, they are going to publish diagnostic of our stablecoin landscape. Remember, stablecoin is cryptocurrency, or a Bitcoin, if you will, with a balance sheet. Okay, so stablecoin and cross-border crypto asset transactions. So that's what we can expect. This is the tsunami we are facing as financial market participants. And that brings us to the end of my presentation. I have nothing because I finished in time.
Two claps for you. One is thank you very much. And two, and look, you finished in time.
I did. There we go.
It's the first. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so that basically sets, yes, Gary. Do we get a copy of your presentation? Is it copyrighted? You can cut it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that basically sets the perspective for today's summit of all of that stuff that's coming. Next up, we are honored to have as our keynote speaker, Mr. Unati Kamlala, the FSCA Commissioner, with the emphasis on the word the. So I'd like to welcome you to the stage, please, sir.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone. Good morning. All right. My name is Unati Kamlala, to those of you who don't know me, and currently, yes, I am the Commissioner of the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. I never quite know in what instance you actually are comfortable to say that, or whether you don't say it at all. But I feel like I'll be safe introducing myself as such here in the gathering of friends and colleagues. And I think, you know, maybe coming through quite appropriately after Ingrid's presentation, which was more or less, you know, the global context. And then I can talk much more specifically about the work that we are doing in South Africa, or rather the state of financial regulation in markets in our country. I was mentioning earlier, talking to Mr. Reeves, that I felt over the years as I would watch the summit online, I'd felt a little bit left over, and I was wondering, given that I know a few of the board members of the South African Institute of Financial Markets, whether I should start a nudge, nudge, hint, hint kind of campaign to get myself an invite. But fortunately, before I could embarrass myself and make everything awkward, I did secure an invitation to come and talk to you this morning. So I would really like to express my sincere gratitude to the leadership of the Institute for Financial Markets for the invitation and for the opportunity to share some reflections on the state of regulation of our financial markets and the work that we are doing to further enhance market integrity, which is an important aspect of the mandate of the Financial Sector Control Authority, the FSCA. So we refer to ourselves as the FSCA. Many people, especially those that we are about to fine, refer to us as FISCA. It is the FSCA. Thank you. So let me begin with some contextual remarks. We meet at a time when uncertainty continues to define the global economic landscape. The IMF's latest economic outlook, published in July, which was last year, describes a world where growth is still positive, but uneven, and subject to significant downside risks. Geopolitical tensions are elevated, and trade frictions are beginning to reshape the way economies relate to each other. Just this month, several countries, including our own, are grappling with the implications of newly announced US tariffs, which will have implications for trade and potentially disrupting some complex supply chains. And we're yet to understand the fuller impact of these tariffs. As many of you will appreciate, developments such as these rarely remain isolated. There are potential spillover effects on our financial markets, including impacts on investment sentiment, currency volatility, the direction of capital flows. Alongside the more immediate shocks, financial markets have to contend with deeper structural shifts, and those are fundamentally transforming how they operate. Key among those structural changes are the accelerating pace of technological innovation and the growing influence of climate-related risks, both of which are redefining the way that financial markets operate, how risks are understood, how capital is allocated, and how institutions themselves should remain sustainable over the long term. In such an environment, it is tempting to chase speed and scale and innovation in pursuit of growth and competitive advantage, to stay ahead of disruption, to stay ahead of the curve. But in this pursuit, we must not lose sight of the foundational principle that holds everything together and breeds trust: the integrity of our financial markets. It is integrity that bolsters confidence among investors, intermediaries, and the public, and assures them of the effectiveness of our financial markets, effectiveness and fairness of our financial markets, even as conditions change. And that is why the conversations you will be having at this summit are so important. Anchored in the theme shaping market integrity, the summit speaks directly to the need for trust, accountability, and resilience of markets, and how these are important to be held. It's also important to make the point that competition and innovation may even mean the emergence of new risks and even new uncertainties, which may have implications themselves for market integrity. But that notwithstanding, they are still very important for the continued evolution and competitiveness of our markets. I'm sure we can all appreciate that integrity does not emerge on its own. It is something that we must actively shape among other things, through sound regulation that is consistently enforced by strong and robust institutions such as financial sector regulators, as well as through ethical behavior by both individuals and firms that operate within the system. This is where the work of the South African Institute of Financial Markets is of immense relevance in shaping the character of our markets through education and professional development. Because while regulation sets the rules of the game, it's the market practitioners who play and therefore determine whether those rules lead to markets that are ethical in conduct, contributing to financial stability and trust. In the end, the strength of markets rests not only on the regulations themselves, but on the knowledge, skills, and values and know-how of the people who bring those rules to life every day. Let me turn now to the important role that regulation plays in supporting the efficiency, transparency, and integrity of financial markets. I want to spend a moment on this because too often regulation is seen as a costly hurdle to clear or an inconvenience to be endured, rather than a strategic imperative to be embraced. The reality is that without strong regulation, trust erodes, misconduct and abuse go unchecked, and stability is put at risk. And yes, regulation does carry costs, but the cost of no regulation or weak regulation is far greater. The 2008 global financial crisis remains the clearest reminder of this truth. In the years leading up to the crisis, light touch regulation and unbridled risk-taking created an illusion of prosperity and stability. When the illusion collapsed, the consequences were devastating. Millions of jobs were lost, homes were repossessed, life savings were wiped out. In response, governments had to pour billions of taxpayer money into stabilizing financial systems, driving public debt to unprecedented levels from which we are yet to recover, including South Africa. South Africa was not spared the fallout of the global financial crisis with the loss of about 1 million jobs and the rise in the public debt. But without the strong regulatory foundations and the prudent culture of risk-taking in our financial markets, the damage would have been more severe, further deepening unemployment, risking instability, and shaking the foundations of public trust in the financial system. This is why strong, credible, and well-enforced regulation is not a luxury. It is a safeguard for our economy and the livelihoods of our people. But we appreciate that regulation and regulatory approaches must also continually adapt. That is why we ask ourselves as a regulator, we ask ourselves these questions. Is our regulatory framework fit for purpose, given the emergence of new and different and more complex risks? Is it agile enough to respond swiftly to change? Are our supervisory approaches sufficiently robust to detect vulnerabilities early and to do something about it? And given the interconnectedness of today's markets, our standards keeping in step with the best in the world while remaining grounded in South Africa's unique economic realities. And grounded they must because they serve this country. Importantly, we understand that regulatory frameworks must be sensitive to economic dynamism. Let me say that again. Regulatory frameworks, regulation must be sensitive to economic dynamism because regulation intended to safeguard public trust in markets should not end up stifling innovation and growth risking killing the very markets it is designed to protect. So it is important to stress that regulation is not for its own sake. It is an undertaking to strengthen the markets, to build investor confidence, ensuring that our markets remain globally competitive, and to secure South Africa's place as a credible player in the global financial system. Perhaps a few words on this need for alignment to international standards, which we have the strategic opportunity to actively shape through our participation in various of these global standard setting bodies, whether it is the Financial Stability Board, the IOSCO, FATF, IAIS, and so on. And this year, with our G20 presidency, this role has been further reinforced, giving effect to both our national interests and the broader priorities of emerging and developing markets. This alignment is not merely about influence. It is also about building credibility and the trust that underpins our continued participation in the global financial system. When we fall short, the consequences can be swift, affecting not only our domestic markets, but also our region and our standing internationally. The grey listing of South Africa by the FATF in 2023 was painful, and it was a painful and a clear example. This experience underscored the imperative that our regulatory frameworks must remain robust, credible, and fully aligned with the international regulatory standards. This leads me to some of the key regulatory frameworks we are working and developing on, aimed at enhancing our regulatory framework going forward, and many of you are familiar with these. One of the most significant regulatory projects currently underway is the review of the Financial Markets Act. This review is underpinned by an appreciation that the Financial Markets Act, there's a lot that has changed in terms of the underlying market landscape, a lot that has evolved since it was initially enacted. In this regard, we have been supporting National Treasury to give effect to the recommendations of the Financial Markets Review Committee, along with the policy proposals from the Treasury's 2020 paper, Building Competitive Financial Markets for Innovation and Growth. They would expand the scope of market infrastructures covered by the FMA, strengthen the alignment of licensing, conduct, and prudential powers, clarify the respective roles of the regulators, address gaps relating to competition issues and the regulatory treatment of digital assets, embed global best practices in governance, transparency, and operational resilience. National Treasury has indicated that these amendments are expected to be released for public consultation sometime this year. These reforms are not only far-reaching, but they are also time-relevant. Some of them address challenges that require immediate action and cannot wait for the legislative process to run its course. While National Treasury advances the amendments, our founding legislation, the Financial Sector Regulation Act, gives us the ability to, through joint standards and conduct standards, we have been using those tools to close regulatory gaps, respond to emerging risks, and strengthen our supervisory approaches as conditions evolve. This proactive regulation has enabled us to advance other critical reform areas that where we were required to deliver on in terms of the FMA. One such area is the development of a regulatory framework for central clearing, where we have been working closely with the Prudential Authority to implement our roadmap of reforms in this space. Phase one is the roadmap which saw the finalization and the licensing process, which has facilitated the licensing of our local CCP. We are now advancing to phase two, where we are finalizing the equivalence framework and a joint standard that sets out the criteria an external CCP or trade repository must meet to apply for an exemption from a provision of the FMA to allow such CCP or TR to provide services to the South African market. Looking ahead to phase three, The framework will introduce eligibility criteria that will ultimately mandate the central clearing of certain OTC derivative transactions. This final phase will anchor the framework by making central clearing a standard practice for designated instruments. Complementing this work on central clearing is the important progress we have made on trade repository. In line with our G20 commitments, South Africa has now its own licensed trade repository. Last year, November, the FSCA, with the concurrence of the British Authority, granted Straight a license to operate as a TR. Once fully operational, these developments will complete a critical piece of South Africa's post-crisis reform agenda, ensuring that OTC derivatives are not only centrally cleared, but also transparently reported in line with international standards. We are also working with the Prudential Authority to close a prudential gap between banks and non-bank over-the-counter derivative providers. The objective is to level playing fields so that all market participants are subject to the same high standards of capital and risk management. The reform also responds to a key finding from our previous 2022 FSAP on South Africa, which highlighted the need to targeted reforms in this area. We are still at an early technical stage, developing proposals that will be released for public consultation for non-bank OTPs. Let me start from the beginning. For non-bank OTPs, the takeaway is clear. This is the time to get ahead of the curve, use the lead time to review capital buffers, stress test your risk frameworks, and prepare for a prudential environment where what was once good enough may no longer be sufficient. Thought that was clear. Another area of work is the strengthening of the regulatory framework for market infrastructures. South Africa has now multiple licensed exchanges and market infrastructures. The diversity is positive. We like it, but it also brings complexities. Competition delivers real value only when it is anchored in cooperation, interoperability, and consistent standards and safeguards investors and preserve market resilience. Without these safeguards, we run the risk of fragmentation, operational inefficiencies, and regulatory blind spots. The draft conduct standard we published for consultation last year is designed to tackle these challenges head on. Once finalized, it will make cooperation between market infrastructures non-negotiable, requiring formal interoperability arrangements and embed best execution practices across the board. It will also mandate greater fee transparency, and stronger conflict of interest management. These are the levers we intend to use and to pull to ensure that a more competitive market is also fairer, safer, and more attractive a place to invest. The consultation process has confirmed that the sector is both engaged and willing to help shape the detail. We have taken on board the constructive feedback that we've received. The revised version will soon be released for a second round. There will be another opportunity for stakeholders to help craft a framework that not only meets the regulatory objectives, but also supports the market's ability to compete and innovate on a sustainable basis. Closing the gap. We have also been advancing significant reforms with National Treasury to close a regulatory gap in the oversight of benchmarks. A gap that, if left unaddressed, could expose our markets to the kinds of risks and abuses seen internationally. This work is about ensuring that the prices and rates underpinning financial instruments are beyond reproach, that they inspire confidence and that they are governed by clear rules and robust oversight. History has shown through high-profile cases such as the manipulation of the LIBOR and the Euribor that weak governance over benchmarks can result in conflict of interest, loss of market confidence, financial losses, and even systemic instability. To address this, we have worked with the Treasury to develop regulations designating the provision of a benchmark as a regulated financial service, with the FSCA as the responsible authority for its regulation, supervision, and oversight. A conduct standard is now being finalized, taking into account amendments to the European Benchmark Regulation, EU BMR. This will help clear rules for authorization, for robust oversight and administrators, and a focus on significant and critical benchmarks that truly matters. We are also aware of our own JIBA to Zaronia transition in South Africa, and we will be working with the SAB and the PA to ensure a smooth transition. We'll work together where it is possible to ensure that information is provided in a helpful way during this transition. And I understand that my colleague Zakele will also talk to this after me. On sustainable finance, before I sit down, as we strengthen the foundations of our regulatory framework, it is clear that structural shifts in the market are redefining what resilience and integrity mean. One of the most significant of these shifts is the growing role of sustainable finance, where capital flows are increasingly guided by environmental, social, and governance considerations alongside traditional financial metrics. Investors are no longer asking what is the return, but also what is the impact. The answers to both these questions shape whether capital is deployed, at what scale, and on what terms. Globally, sustainability has moved from being a reputational consideration to being a core driver of market access, competitiveness, and long-term value creation. In South Africa, it presents both a challenge and an opportunity to mobilize capital towards objectives such as a just and inclusive transition, while also safeguarding practices that undermine trust, including greenwashing and impact washing. The FSCA, working with key stakeholders, is piloting the implementation of the South African Green Finance Taxonomy to evaluate how best to encourage its use, aligning with global approaches and supporting consistent disclosures. For sustainable finance to be credible, disclosure must be transparent, comparable, and decision useful. With the support of the IFC, we are considering the introduction of sustainability disclosure requirements to promote capital market transparency and ensure continued alignment with international standards. In doing so, the FSA is working towards the adoption of the ISSB's IFRS S1 and S2 standards as the global baseline, ensuring that South Africa's disclosure framework is internationally comparable, credible, and aligned with the emerging best practice in the world. Another shift is what we see in terms of technological advancements, AI and blockchain. Having brought crypto assets provision into the regulatory perimeter, the FSCA now focuses on how to supervise these institutions. AI, in the meanwhile, is becoming deeply embedded in trading platforms, in risk modeling, in compliance, in investment advice. While it offers gains in efficiency, faster risk detection, and advanced analytics, it also brings challenges from algorithmic bias and opacity to volatility amplification. Over the past year, in partnership with the Prudential Authority, we have been studying AI adoption to, amongst other objectives, guide and inform the development of governance principles for use by financial institutions. These principles will be incorporated into the governance requirements for financial institutions, ensuring fairness and trust. And as I near my conclusion, it would be remiss of me to not speak about the future of our public markets. Public markets have for long been the cornerstone of capital formation, transparency, and accountability in South Africa. They have ordinary investors. They provide ordinary investors with access to wealth creation opportunities. They enable businesses to raise long-term capital and enforce discipline through disclosure and governance. Yet, we cannot ignore the reality that the number of listed companies has been declining, mirroring a trend where more firms choose private capital over public listing. While we understand that this may not simply be a matter of choice, it reflects deep-seated structural, macroeconomic, and microeconomic pressures, low liquidity and weak investor demand, coupled with slow economic growth and persistent uncertainties, which have dampened investor appetite and depressed company valuations, leaving listed firms with limited scope to thrive. Furthermore, the compliance and reporting burden associated with the public listing remains disproportionately heavy for smaller firms, adding to the financial strain. We welcome efforts by exchanges to reduce the complexity of listings and to expand programs aimed at improving liquidity, steps which are essential if public markets are to remain relevant and inclusive. For us as regulators, this goes to the very heart of market integrity. As we advance our broader regulatory reforms, including through the more principles-based and more outcomes-focused Coffee Bill, and instruments such as the draft conduct standard on market infrastructure, we remain committed to supporting a framework that strengthens confidence, enhances resilience, and preserves the value of our public markets for the future. Let me conclude by reiterating that integrity of South African financial markets will not be measured only by how we respond to today's challenges, but by how we anticipate and shape the future. It requires us to have an intertemporal mindset and rests on our collective capacity to read the signs of change early and to adapt with agility and to lead with conviction. It will depend on our ability to embrace innovation without compromising stability, to open new frontiers without losing sight of our foundational principles, and to build resilience, not for just our systems, but in the trust that sustains them. Trust is our most valuable currency, and slowly, tested consistently, and lost quickly. I wish you productive discussions and meaningful exchanges throughout the summit. May the insights that you share here not only shape the dialogue of today, but also strengthen the foundations for a stronger, more resilient, and more inclusive financial future for South Africa. Thank you.
No, it's fine. Yeah, thank you very much. That was, I think, very privileged for us to actually hear the view of the FSCA. Now, just one note, in terms of questions for Mr. Kamlala, please can you email questions to Melissa at saifm.co.za, and she will make sure that they go through to Mr. Kamlala. And again, thank you very much indeed for coming through. Right, we are ahead of time, which is actually quite nice for once. Hardly ever happens. But now we are joined by Mr. Zakila Jananda for the section on JABA transition and other SARB matters. Zakila is the lead financial market specialist at the SARB and the Financial Markets Department. Thank you.
I had hoped, Commissioner, that you're going to take the full time allocated to you so I could gather my thoughts. So I, I was not ready. So I don't even have my iPad open, but it's fine. At least the screen is right in front of me, so we'll just go along. In any case, I do have my colleagues. One decided to jump as soon as they called my name, or there he comes back. So I've got Naweed, Azola is here, and Bafundi, and Luleki as well, and all do work on this reference rate reform program. So I'm hoping that you don't reserve your tough questions. I've got backing. I won't look foolish today. The subject matter is quite extensive, and I doubt that we'll be able to cover most of it today. So I'll be quite high. I'll pitch it at quite high level. And if we do have time, we can delve into the other sub matters that are kind of connected to what we are doing. But I think maybe before we get into it, I just wanted to commend the South African Institute of Financial Markets for the framing of the theme for this summit, shaping market integrity. I suppose for two things. One, maybe it's coincidental, then maybe by design, the discussions at the Constitutional Court on the FX benchmark themselves just kind of highlight the importance of dealing with vulnerabilities in the system, such that we don't just look at the integrity of the person, but of the system as a whole. But it just also illustrates what happens when it gets questioned. It becomes, it's national dialogue, and it starts to speak to issues of trust. But besides the fact that, the discussion is on benchmarks, being the FX benchmarks, JIBA and the JIBA transition is also about a benchmark and how we're strengthening, our benchmarks. So it's very much related. And so it's quite apt in a way, the choice of the theme. But more than that, Naweed and I, we were quite fascinated with the choice of the word shaping, because obviously it invokes from a strategy balance, the shaping approach to strategy, which actually then talks about that not one player can reshape the market. You do need the whole ecosystems, everybody participating to co-create and make sure that we've got a more robust outcome out of it. But it also highlights the fact that we should be thinking about this transition as an opportunity for innovation, an opportunity to strengthen the financial system rather than a regulatory change, because that's how most, especially the buy side, tends to approach this thing. They tend to think of it as a requirement that they need to comply with. So they employ these adaptive sort of strategies instead of actually engaging and shaping the outcome. So again, we commend you on the choice of that word shaping, because then it really captures what we're trying to achieve in terms of the reference rate reform. Benchmarks are deeply embedded in the financial system. There are those things that you don't really think about until they go wrong. You don't think about who's calculating it. I was reflecting on this last night, and I was thinking of the time when I went to the SAP for my interview. They did ask me, how is Java calculated and how do you think it can actually be improved? Needless to say, because I just I just didn't know how Java was calculated. So I'm not under the illusion to say that market participants actually think about these things, because we actually don't. Uh, for me, at least, my excuse was that my focus had been on equity markets, and so I didn't have that intricate knowledge of fixed income markets at that time. But actually, having been at the SARB and having had so many conversations with market participants, it's very clear that very few people have that kind of intricate knowledge in any case. So this is then is an opportunity to make sure that as you engage, we get to understand how the benchmarks are constituted, where the vulnerabilities lie, and how do we fix them, whether from a regulation perspective, but also in terms of market conventions and practices, just to make sure that the system is so much more better. But in terms of this Java being so embedded, one, we tend to think about, the balance sheet and the products and the exposures that we have, and I'll share a few statistics in a second. But actually, you have to think about business models, because market infrastructures have automated so many processes to make it easier for us to be, for markets to be a bit more efficient, and they assume that the benchmarks are going to be in existence forever. So when you change the benchmark, all of a sudden you have to think about the systems. You have to think about the business processes, how you're framing your pricing conversations with your clients, because there's a lot of information that we assume is contained in the benchmark itself. So that is a key takeaway that, it's not only for maybe the front office guys that need to contend with it, it's the whole value chain. As I've promised, just to give you a sense of how big the problem is, we look at this balance sheet sort of exposures and looking at the assets, and this is the latest data point that we sort of have. We conduct what we call a Java-related quantitative survey, where we ask banks and other financial institutions to give us, a sense of the exposures, and then they submit this on a regular basis. At the moment, we estimate about 2.33 sort of trillion worth of exposures that are reflected on banks' books. And that is reflective of about 243,000 contracts. And so if we're thinking about transitioning, we're thinking about dealing with all these contracts, but also from how much is invested in it. That's how much is sitting at the moment. Of course, we are also interested in the type of instruments that carry this exposure. And as you can see on the graph that is showing on the screen, about 30% of that is in floating rate notes, and most of them obviously would be maturing beyond 2026. And you may know that in terms of our plan, we want to discontinue the benchmark towards the end of 2026. So this becomes quite important in terms of dealing with the contracts. In terms of the liabilities, we do note obviously that your NCDs and other deposits do tend to reference JIBAR, but the total sort of liabilities, we're estimating it at about 1.6 trillion. Again, reflecting contracts of about 21,000 odd that then need to be transitioned. Derivatives is where the main problem actually lies, given the amount of exposures. You're moving away from that 2.6 and 1. What is it? A 2.3 and 1.6. And now you're going to 40 trillion worth of notional exposure in terms of derivatives that also have to be transitioned. We know that you love your interest rate swaps, and also you use your FRAs to hedge against monetary policy action and things like that. So now you have to think about what does that actually mean for your corporate. Now, on this choice of a shaping approach around strategy and obviously shaping market integrity, we just wanted to highlight then the two things about obviously this strategy is that there's a lot of uncertainty that is involved in this thing. So we don't know when National Treasury is going to accept the proposals that we're doing. Luleki there is actually quite involved in that. In terms of safe harbor provisions, there was uncertainty also in terms of what the benchmark itself would look like, Zaronia. And so as we chug along, so much of it is unpredictable. But the important thing is that as we're shaping the environment, we're thinking, and we have to assume that we can control it. It's slightly advantageous that the South African Reserve Bank is leading the transition because of its centrality in the financial system, but also because of its role together with the FSCA from a supervisory and regulatory perspective. It means then that, from a shaping strategy balance, we can orchestrate the transition. But then we also understanding the complexities, and the commissioner was referring to that, that is actually involved, and the many players, from your lawyers to accountants to your dealers in your trading rooms. We needed to create a platform that we can then use to facilitate this transition. And for us, this is the Market Practitioners Group, whereby we sort of created 8 different work streams that focus on different segments of the market, so that they could engage with the different players, and we can get this network effects around the transition itself. Now, that was just an introduction. What time am I supposed to end then? Is it 10:20? Okay. Please, I invite you to interject at any time. It's much more interesting if it's a conversation than waiting right until the end. So I don't know how we're going to facilitate this, if there's a roaming mic or whatever. But I'm happy for us to just have a conversation, and my team is ready to also answer questions. We've prepped very hard for this. So what I wanted to cover, obviously, is the case for reforming critical benchmarks, and just to contextualize why we're doing this Jabba's transition at the moment. And then afterwards, I just look more deeply in the role of the MPG and the South African Reserve Bank around orchestrating this transition. We do have less than 2 years to get this thing right. Then lastly, I want to focus on what your role in this whole thing is. So how you're engaging on the critical issues that we are still sorting out, but also just to ask you to take action, evolve, and not necessarily wait and see if this thing is really going to happen or not. In terms of building the case for reforming reference rates, I just want to emphasize maybe 2 points about it. One is that the idea here is that we want to build trust, or at least enhance it in terms of the system itself. And the commissioner also mentioned it, in terms of transparency. How do we enhance transparency around benchmarks, but also the actions going forward? And then the second bit, if there is a takeaway, is that we've really thought about issues of fairness. In terms of the transition itself, how do you ensure fairness from a contractual perspective, taxation perspective, and so on, and also just treatment of customers. And obviously the issue of when you have a robust system, it's more resilient to shocks in future. We used to lead with this picture of Tom Hayes. I think now with the conversation at the Constitutional Court and this issue about chat rooms, I won't spend too much time, lest there are those that are still sensitive. They've had to help build the cases and the responses of the banks to the Constitutional Court. So I won't go into too much detail. You can Google this guy. There's some news about him also, quite recent, because I think he's already served his prison sentence. And I think there's some rulings that were overturned quite recently. But it was the poster boy basically for a white collar crime. Excuse the pun. I think it's because you've got a picture staring at me, so it's unavoidable. But yeah, it just tells you that when we talk about market integrity, it has a human face or a human face element to it. In terms of, again, it's a term that the commissioner touched on, conflicts of interest. If we design systems that don't have any safeguards around conflicts of interest, and yet we incentivize based on profitability or profits, we are bound to have this conversation over and over again. And this is a classic case. But in any case, I think what I wanted to highlight, because this thing started around about 2012, 2013, how it was picked up, I think it was a Wall Street article that sort of looked at that spread, that LIBOR-OIS spread that markets use to gauge the financial health or the credit risk profile of banks. And then they would compare it to your CDS. And they started noticing this divergence between the two. And then they basically started to infer to saying somebody must be fudging the numbers. Because if we're measuring things correctly, the two should be consistent. And of course, when they looked into all this chat room chats and whatever have you, they did discover that there was some rigging or manipulation that was taking place. So this guy was then convicted for conspiring. It's a term that Utemba was talking about yesterday, so it kind of stuck with me. That he conspired with other traders to get a favorable outcome. And it just speaks also then obviously in terms of the information content that we infer on benchmarks, because we then anticipate and position ourselves vis-a-vis what we think the benchmark is saying and vis-a-vis what we think ought to be. And therefore, profits of valuations and everything else is then hinges on this thing. But then it means that if you can control the conversation and what you're publishing, then you can then also secure those profits for yourself. And this is what this gentleman, together with 9 other sort of traders, were doing. And of course, they were made an example of. Essentially, what that meant was was that people went to the stoic wisdom of Edward Stillman to say, if you're going to have a solution here, in God we will continue trusting, but everybody else must just bring data. And so we wanted to move away from indicative rates that were basically telling us where a bank thinks they could raise funding, to tell us where you actually raise the funding and give it to a trusted party, being the central bank, who will then aggregate and calculate the benchmark. So now we've developed benchmarks that are based on transactions. The disadvantage, of course, is that we have to wait until the actual transaction has happened, which means then our benchmarks are backward looking. And therefore, we now need to change conventions for everything else to align with the nature in which we calculate the benchmarks. Nonetheless, there were some important sort of documents that were released. This idea, I suppose, of in God we trust, all else bring data, is captured in the principles for financial benchmarks that then emphasize, a hierarchy of input data, and that, especially for critical benchmarks, we ought to base them on actual observable transactions. So there must be that audit trail, but also that we need to ensure that they represent the economic realities of the interests that we are hoping to measure. When you have a divergence in terms of what you are saying you're measuring vis-a-vis what is actually happening in the underlying market, then you have a problem. We sort of looked at our own eyeball being JIBA and concluded that from a design perspective, it suffers from the same weaknesses that you had observed in your libels and so on, in that it was based on indicative rates, slightly stronger in the sense that for us, those rates, banks were basically committing to trade at those rates. So they're not purely indicative, but nonetheless, they were still, in a way, you're inferring as to where you think at best you're going to raise that funding. But that was just the one thing. The more important one was that we also observed that the markets that were supporting JIBA, they were thinning